Time to talk Texas high school football with one of my favorite scouts, Marc Henry.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. In this bonus episode, we're going to be talking with one of my good friends in the industry, Marc Henry, all the latest info on what's going on in Dallas, the area that he is from, Fort Worth, and even a little East Texas and some Houston. It's just going to be a fun episode talking top prospects, mostly class of 27, but we're going to mix in some kids that are in the senior class as well. Mr. Marc Henry, sir, how we doing?
B, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. You got Horn Sports, On the Mark Sports, Prep Red Zone. You're a busy man.
Absolutely.
And you're always on the road. Right off the bat, best game you've been to this year in Texas is what? And who stood out in that game?
Well, last week we had a monumental showdown. Duncanville went on the road to Waxahachie. It was a 28-27 win for Waxahachie, which they hadn't beat Duncanville in about 4 or 5 seasons. It's also their first district matchup, 11-6A, which in the state of Texas, it's been named the District of Doom because of Duncanville, DeSoto, Cedar Hill. You have to throw Waxahachie, Lancaster in there as well. This is a district that's loaded. And you can, like I said, the mantra for me is you can flip a coin and go to any corner. And the thing about it, Brian, is these teams and schools are located in probably a 20 to 10 mile radius of each other. So the talent pool there's, if I was a college coach, I'd have an Airbnb right in that area and just go each Friday and check everybody out or go to practice routinely. So, but the game of the year so far has been that. It was a 28-27 win for Waxahachie. The guy that stood out, and I think his stock rose from this game, was 2027 safety Jaquan Snell. He was recently down in Texas for a visit, but, every school in the country has been on this guy. But this is the best overall game that I've seen him have as a player. I met him probably about the 7th, 8th grade, saw him play the last 2 years. He started as a freshman. He's a guy that's about 6'3", probably about 190 maybe. I'll put the comparison like this. He kind of reminds me of Steve Atwater with that range, the ability to come down and thump, but also the ability to cover in the slide if he needs to, or definitely he has the range on the back end. But the thing about Snell is he set the tone with his physicality on special teams and on defense. The 4th and 2 play, I'm sure you've seen it by now. I think I sent it to you.
Yep.
The 4th and 2 play, he stopped Asen Theus, who's committed to TCU, the wide receiver for Duncanville. And it was one of those hits that you're going to see around the country for probably the most of the year. It was a thud-a-dun type of play. And he comes down, the hole opens up, and it's just him and Theus, and Snell wins that battle. But he had a monster game. I think it's his physicality and his ability to run the alleys, like just what you want from a safety at the free safety position. Now, he can come down in the box as well, but he's that guy that's roaming from sideline to sideline on the back end, and he just had a phenomenal game. For me, I think he rose up to the number 1 safety, in my opinion, in the state of Texas in the 2027 class. He was already that good. He's already been having a monster season, but this game was against elite competition. You got Trenton Yancey in the 2027 class on that side. You have the SMU commit Zachary Turner and Asen Theus, who I mentioned. You had 2027 quarterback Maximus Denson, who started the game for Duncanville. And then you also had KJ Ford and Landon Barnes. It was top flight competition on both sides. And, Barnes is committed to Ole Miss, and you got KJ Ford going to Florida. But there's a couple of guys in the 2027 class on the defensive line for Waxahachie that you need to know about. Cedric Marsh Jr. Is a 2027 guy. He's about 6'5", Brian. He's already got SEC offers, but this guy, I think his stock rose as well to the way he played. In Carmelo Clausen on the 2027 class, they're bookends. These guys are all coming back. And then you have TCU commit Jerry Meyer III at quarterback, who had about 115 yards, a couple of passes that he completed late in the game to kind of ice it. But overall, Waxahachie as a whole, I think is a team in the state of Texas. I have them ranked. If you go to onmarksports.com, we should have that up by tomorrow morning. I have a few rankings there in 6A. I have them, I think, number 3 this week going into week 5. But the player of the game was Jaquan Snell, and another 2027 guy that you need to know about is Jordan Smith, the slot receiver running back. He had a monster game, had a kick return. He's returned a couple of kicks back already this year. You shouldn't kick to this guy. This was like the second or third week he ran one back. But his ability to run the jet sweeps and get open in space, and of course, you got the Texas committing Cohen Brown. Now, he didn't have a statistic, monster game, but his ability to play on both sides of the ball, he shut down one side of the field at cornerback, and then he made a couple of chain moving catches for first downs for Waxahachie. So this week they have DeSoto. They go to DeSoto for homecoming. So that's going to be a big game there. But I think that Jaquan Snell was the guy that was the player of the game for me. In the 27 class, I think his stock, for me, Brian, he's the number 1 safety in the 27 class now.
Well, they've got so many good players in that area. When you sent me that clip, I'm like, dang, like that's a college level player at least not an NFL kind of play. Like that was
right.
I was like, holy Toledo. And he's been recruited. Jaquan's been recruited by everybody, but after that play circulates, I'd imagine that he's pretty much going to have every offer there is, because that's what you want out of your safety.
Absolutely. You want him to come downhill, under control, feel it, take the proper angles. And I mean, the guy didn't go anywhere forward. You don't want him to lean forward with the tackle. You want him to come through and finish it. There was no buzz in his feet. There was no stopping. He was just through contact. And that's what Snell is, great at, is he finishes his plays well as well.
Who has stood out to you just in general? Anybody that you've seen, whether 26, 27 recruit in the Metroplex, anybody caught your eye?
Those number of guys that I just talked about for Waxahachie, definitely. I'm going to go 2028, and that's Demarion Mays for North Crowley. I think he's
going all the way to the sophomore class.
Yes, I think he's vaulted himself, in my opinion, as probably the top Texas receiver in 2028. He came out strong. I actually saw him in a scrimmage against Euless Trinity going against John Meredith.
Oh, Meredith's legit.
Yeah, yes. And, of course, these guys work out together a little bit. Shout out to D-Rob in that camp, always open.
Sure.
And Demarion's one of those guys. But his ability to fight through contact on a deep ball, he's got pretty good range as far as tracking the football. And then, he uses his body well in close space to body defensive backs back, on slants and hitches and things like that. He's really come out and had a strong, first few games. We're going into week 5 here in the state of Texas. He's been one of the top 2028s and then one of the top players, period. Also, for North Crowley, Jarrell Smith had a 5-touchdown game against Rockwall in a loss last week. He's a 2027 running back. I think that guys are going to start to colleges are going to start to head over to North Crowley and check this guy out. 5 touchdowns against Rockwall. He's got a North Dakota offer. I think, he's going to start to generate some buzz. Of course, sharing the backfield with Keontae Ingram in the 2027 class. That's a 1-2 punch for North Crowley that you have right there. And then you got to talk about Jerry Outhouse Jr., who's in that secondary over there, who's also a 2027 on the North Crowley team. So I know they went down and they lost to Rockwall this week, but they'll be back. That was the first loss for North Crowley in 4 seasons that Coach Gates has been over there. That was their first regular season, first loss that wasn't a playoff game, coming off a state title game where they went 16-0 last year. So Jarrell Smith has been impressive. I think that he's a guy that you definitely need to know about in the 2027 class at the running back position.
Okay. When we come back, we're going to talk about one of the best players in the country from Texas in the class of 27 from East Texas, then another one from the Houston area that I'm very familiar with. That's a running back that I know Marc's familiar with, and more from the greater Dallas area. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash, and it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP, who delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. So let's break it down. For me, it's Fernando Mendoza of Indiana. He was 21-23, over 250 yards, 5 touchdowns, as Indiana absolutely destroyed Illinois 63-10. His accuracy, his timing, his patience, everything about Fernando Mendoza was really good. And just like Mendoza delivered for Indiana, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. DoorDash gives you every Saturday with your order. Stack it up all season, and you can save $250, including $100 in DoorDash edits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Promo is good through November 18th. We are also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is one of our official partners, and the NFL season is here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. If you win your first $5 bet as a new customer, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app, whether it's player props, halftime scores, race for the MVP, or anything else. FanDuel has got you covered. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app and visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And we are also brought to you by Mazda. Move and be moved, as Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. They have the best opportunities for you to make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls, and all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, thank you for joining me again, Marc, here on the Locked on the Portal podcast, talking Texas high school football. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Kavian Bryant. I know you're thinking about trying to figure out a way to go see him, but just overall, I haven't seen him live. I'm sure you have in some capacity. His film's incredible. He's from the same hometown as a certain running back that ended up being pretty good.
Absolutely.
You didn't like where he played college, I know. You being a Texas guy, but
yeah.
Westwood High School in Palestine, Texas. Kavian Bryant, tell everybody about what you think about him, and I'll add a little to it, but I think he might be the top QB in the class of 27 nationally.
Well, we had a conversation a few months ago, and I kind of told you about this guy when he was a sophomore, that I thought, in my opinion, before he graduates, he's going to be the number one player in the state of Texas. Just a guy that can get it done in all forms of fashion that you want from the quarterback position. He's also a hooper B, and he's got hoop offers from the Blue Bloods of basketball. He was just, I think he went a visit to Texas, if I'm not mistaken, last week. Yeah, I think to me, he's probably the best player in the class 2027. It depends on who you talk to, but I think that he has every skill set that you want from a quarterback. The arm talent, the ability to evade the rush, and also make plays outside the pocket on the rollout with his arm. He's not just a runner. He's a passer as well. And then, when he does, get in the open field as a runner, he's got the juice. So he's that guy. I've seen him. I think on two occasions. It was probably more when he was a couple years ago as a freshman. And then the progression he's made as a passer this offseason, I think, is something. They're 4-0 undefeated right now. They were a playoff team last year at Westwood. So Kavian Bryant is must-see TV.
I like how he just moves and how he's like a slinky when he needs to evade a rush. He doesn't get impatient for a young kid. A lot of times they get somebody come out, their eyes come down, and they're just done. He will make plays even if the pocket is not quote-unquote clean.
Right.
And if you do not contain him in the pocket, he can make things happen, whether it's extending the play to throw or he'll go get some yards on you too.
Absolutely.
But he's accurate. That's the most important thing. And remember now, he's just beginning of his junior year of high school.
Correct.
Back is a long process. So
absolutely.
Upside is through the roof. Besides Texas, has he visited anywhere off the top of your head this year? I know he just
I know he's been to Texas off the top of my head. He's got interest from everybody you can think of. But Texas, Cal is on him, Colorado. You talk about Vanderbilt, SEC offers. If I'm the University of Texas, I got to get this guy on campus and start to really build a relationship with him, because I think that I know they got some guys coming in the near future, but when it comes to the state of Texas, this is the type of talent that we hadn't been able to keep in the state of Texas in the past. And I think that this guy is a game changer that you have to weigh your options as getting him on campus. I think when he gets to a campus, now you're probably going to have to, look at basketball as well, because he's a elite level basketball talent. So you may have to share him. And, I'm not sure. I'm not on the inside as far as if he wants to play both. What I'm saying is he's just that elite on the hardwood as he is on the football field. He can go up and get it. He's been dunking since he was a young guy. You know what I mean? So he's got the skill set to dominate in both sports. But as a quarterback, we're talking about a guy that could be special, like, Vince Young.
Yeah, I think he's a very special player. So wish all the best for him wherever he ends up deciding to go to school. How about our guy Landon Williams-Callis, the running back at Randall High School down on the west side of Houston? I've seen him play when he was in 8th grade. He was electric then. I saw him score 5 touchdowns and a half in an 8th grade game, and it was just comical. He ran 10.61 in the 100 meters before he got into high school. Give me your breakdown of Landon Williams-Callis.
I think he's the number 1 running back in the state of Texas in the class 2027, hands down. I think Jacoby Dixon, he's at John Cooper School now. He's probably number 2. They're probably pretty close. But if I had to and I know both kids well since they were younger, but I think that he's just taking it to the next level. You talk about speed, burst, compact build. He can catch out of the backfield. You're not going to stop him with an arm tackle because he's got that build that just breaks tackles. He's got the long speed. You mentioned that, he ran under 11 as a 8th grader. So he's got all of the things that you want from a running back. He's got every offer in the country that you want to think of. You pick up a school in any conference, he's got an offer from them. And he's just special. I mean, he had a 300-yard game a couple of weeks ago, and he didn't even play in the second half. So it's one of those things where he's that guy. You know what I mean? And they got a big one coming up against a talented Iowa Colony team that's going to be for possibly the district title. It'll be a Thursday night game. I'm kind of on the fence. I plan to make it that way because that's the game that I wanted to see. But I'm also going to another game that Friday, so I'll be back between Houston and DFW. But, anytime you get a chance to see him go against top flight competition, I was at the state title game against South Oak Cliff, and that was a very good defense. And they did, a heck of a job of containing him. And that's not something that you see. Everybody else, he'd been over 2 bills and multiple tutties last year on their way to the state title game, which they won. They went undefeated. But he seems to be a man on a mission this year, and he's taking that extra step that you want to see when the development comes, when you talk about running backs. Sometimes running backs, they're probably outside alignment. They're the next person or the next position that takes a lot of hits and a lot of punishment. He's that guy that you never see a defender get a clean shot on him. It's kind of like, you never saw Barry Sanders ever take one of those big hits. You know what I mean? And I'm not calling him Barry Sanders. I'm just saying that you don't get clean shots on this guy. You never see clean shots or clean tackles. It has to be a group effort when it comes to defensively corralling a talent like that.
Yeah, his first step quickness is probably as good as it gets now in the country.
Right.
Next year, and he's got rocked up. Like you can tell that Landon's put in the time. Yeah, he ain't played around, man. Like he's done the diet right. Coach Randall's done him right. They rolling down there.
Yeah. We're talking about a once in a generation or once, you don't see at the high school level. You don't see this type of special talent, but every a few years. And now when he gets to college and everything else, depending on where he goes, that's to be seen. But this guy, I don't know if he has his 5th star yet, but I'm pretty sure it's on the way.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Last guy that I want to ask you about, because I know you're familiar with him, you've seen him play, is John Meredith III. I saw him at Under Armour Future 50 this summer, and I'm like, good Lord, that guy can play man, he can play zone, and he's at least 6'2".
Yes.
And he's got 2 years of high school left, and John's a pretty quiet kid. He just kind of goes about his business.
Yes.
Like that guy's got some savvy, and he's been coached. Like you can tell he's been coached. So give me your one-on-one on John Meredith III.
Well, the first thing is his ability to shut down one half of the field. They're not going to test him too much, but when they do test him, you better make sure the ball's on time and where it's supposed to be because he's going to go get it. The length is incredible. The back pedal, the smooth hips, just everything about him is so, he's a technician when it comes to everything that you want in a corner. I always equate, corners to being great dancers because they're the only position where someone's running at them full speed and they have to backpedal at the same time. So, in order to be an elite corner, your footwork has to be superb. It has to be clean. You can't have missteps. And John doesn't do any of those things when the ball's in the air. His ability to close on the football when it's in the air and track it well is one of those things that you don't see, in a guy that's been, a 2-year starter going on 3 this year. at Euless Trinity. Now, they had a tough loss against an elite level South Lake Carroll team who last week, who beat them 44-0. But I expect those guys to rebound. They got a big one against Byron Nelson this week. And John, he's one of those guys, like you said, you may not hear much from him, but he's there. Now, when he puts that helmet on, he changes up to another guy. But he's as physical as you want as a corner. His punch, he can play man. You mentioned press, you mentioned cover two, whatever you want him to do. He's a Swiss Army knife. So there's a reason that he's the top 2027 corner in the country, because he has all those attributes and he's still getting better. He has another year to develop. And when he gets into a college program, he's going to metamorphose, change like, kind of the Hulk or, a mutant. When I say that, I mean, his body's going to, right. Yeah. I'm saying he's going to fill out. You know what I mean? When he gets to a college program, he can easily put on 10 pounds of muscle and keep that dexterity and hip flexibility that you want in the corner.
Yeah, I loved him at Under Armour Future 50, and he was going against elite guys.
Absolutely.
And you're not going to win every rep, but he won his fair share. That's hard because these are kids that are trying to get the NFL like legitimately. So
absolutely,
I was really impressed with him. By the way, is it wrong for me to assume that like the 27 group in the DFW, it's on point? Like it may be even better than normal. That's saying something.
So, Brian, I would say this, and I've been saying this to anybody that asks. The 2027 class in the state of Texas from top to bottom is loaded. I've been doing this for a decade, and this is probably the deepest class by position that I've seen when it comes to recruiting. You can get everything you need in the state of Texas from every position that you want. You can start at the top with Kennedy Brown from Kingwood. You got Jalen Brewster at Cedar Hill. We mentioned John Meredith, DeQuavius Ford out at Texas High. You got Cooper Witten, if that name sounds familiar.
Argyle, yeah.
Yes, Argyle Liberty Christian. We mentioned Jaquan Snell and Williams Callis. Colton Nussmeyer from Flower Mound Marcus. If that name sounds familiar, that's a little brother. And then you mentioned Kavion Bryant. I told you about Jacoby Dixon. And this is some of the best talent in the country, not just in the state of Texas. And, I think that 27 is, and the thing about it, Brian, is I saw a lot of these kids, as middle schoolers, and to see the development is something else. But you could see the talent was there. They just have to mature and develop. And all of these guys that we talked about started at a young age with these things. Early identification is something we talk about all the time when it comes to, being a recruitable prospect. You have to be identified pretty early. And all of these guys that we just mentioned were pretty much identified early when it comes to being top level recruits. And you can see in that 2027 class, they're starting to ascend nationally now, not just in the state of Texas. But all of these guys that we talked about were very good players or very good athletes at a young age. So when it comes to recruiting, the thing that I try to tell parents is early identification. It's got to be something about them. Now, we're not saying when it comes to early identification that they're a finished product, but it's something about you, or you have to do something well to be identified. Now, if you just have wake up out of bed size and strength, when it comes to being in the trenches, that's something that you can work with. But some of these guys have matured into this. They developed into this. And the 2027 class in DFW and just around the state of Texas as a whole, you can find whatever you want at any position.
That's what I'm talking about. State of Texas is famous, for high school football, Lone Star State. Takes a back door to nobody. But Marc,
absolutely
appreciate you hopping on, man. Tell everybody where they can find your work.
Well, man, I appreciate it anytime, Brian. Great job on the Locked On podcast. I watch all of your stuff. But you can find me on Twitter at Marc44 on the Marc Sports. That's ONDAMARC Sports. You can go to onthemarksports.com. You can find me at Prep Red Zone Texas and also hornsports.com. I cover the University of Texas recruiting. An analyst and everything for the state of Texas as well. But it's not hard. You can find me on the field every Friday night all the way through state. And then, we do these things in the off season too. So, it's not hard to find me. It's just when you find me, you're catching up with me.
There you go, brother. I appreciate it. Marc is always on the grind, and that's why I appreciate him. Had the opportunity and the pleasure to work with Marc several times. It's a lot.
Absolutely.
You can find the Portal Podcast wherever you get your pods downloaded. Apple, Spotify, Podbean, or anywhere else. And of course, on YouTube. We will see you again soon.